Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September. I hope you are well. Using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. Do I have anything to tell you? I don't think I have anything to tell you. No, let's just get straight in. Now I have 3 cards for Aries, please. There's the first one. We have the 3 of Wands in reverse in your recent past. We have current energy for Aries, please. Thank you. We have the Sun in reverse. What's coming towards Aries, please? Whoosh. We have the 6 of Wands in the upright. I'm really pleased to see this for you, Aries. Let me get this window shut before I start to flip my biscuits over the noise. I'm really pleased to see this. And I'm pleased to see it in this order because the last couple of readings that I've done for you have indicated that you are in a really difficult place at the moment. And it's not fun for anyone. But we've got this Queen of Swords at the bottom of the deck. It's Libran energy, but the Queen of Swords is very discerning. Right? She has a lot of very positive attributes. And one of them is that at this time, what she's enabling you to do is to push aside the kind of murky, muddy, emotional stuff that you've been working through. Right? She's in this elevated position here on this rock, and she can see much further. In fact, you can see she's kind of above the clouds there. She's got a direct line of sight, and where things have been muddy, where you have not known what to do, what to think, you know, who to spend time around. Do you want to spend time around people, or do you want to be by yourself? Like, you know, I kind of feel like whichever position you find yourself in, you're kind of hankering for the other. So if you kind of sat at home and stewing, you kind of wish there were people around. If you're around people, you kind of wish that you could withdraw from it a little bit. She says to me that there's sight coming for you, and that's really, really important. It feels like a shoring up of your mental processes as well, Aries, because it's been, like I said, it's been difficult to know even what you know when it comes down to it. Let's get some clarifiers and then we'll pull on with this. Tell me about the 3 of Wands in reverse, please. We have the Temperance card and the 5 of Pentacles. I just want to say, the 6 of Wands has flown out sideways. I'm going to put it back in. But this augurs very well. Tell me about the Sun in reverse, please. We have the 9 of Wands. And we have the Chariot. Tell me about the 6 of Wands, please. 10 of Pentacles. And the 4 of Wands. This is going in the right direction, Aries. We've got the 5 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. It's a Leo card, but it speaks about conflict. And then we have the 3 of Pentacles. And there, in the upright, is the Queen of Wands, which is your card, Aries. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to see her putting in an appearance. I kind of felt like she was going to do that when I when I was sort of connecting with your energy before I started the reading. I kind of got a sense of her being there, and I was like, oh, is she going to turn up in the upright, in the reverse again? And it was like, no, she's in the upright there, and there she is, which is really, really good. Now, this 5 of Wands here and the 3 of Pentacles is an interesting combination because this speaks to conflict. Right? Whether that is internal or external, you know, like with someone else. But this card here is about working with other people. It is about teamwork and cooperation and collaboration. And then there's you here. So if you are in a position where things have been a little bit dicey with people that you know of late, where you just seem to be running up against a bit of a brick wall with these people, I feel like this is going to shift. But actually, I feel like it's the nature of the cooperation that you are looking for that changes. Or that is changing. It's not about the external situation per se. It's about the way that you are relating to the situation. Now, you know, in the last reading that I did for you specifically. It was just this being in this sense of free fall. And we can certainly see that here with this Three of Wands in reverse. But it feels to me like September is the month where you start to find your feet again, Aries. And I keep coming back to this set of cards here. We've got you sitting tall and proud and strong in the background here, looking directly at this. And so it feels like you're finding your feet. It feels like you're finding your strength. It feels like you're finding your empowerment again. But I feel, honestly, like you're kind of looking at this, you know, with the eye of the Queen of Wands, but also the eye of the Queen of Swords here, and being like, is it worth what I've been putting myself through to cooperate with these people? You know? She looks like she's given it some thought. Have you been dealing with people who are resolute on misunderstanding you? I think possibly. And is this one of the reasons why you've been feeling so disempowered? Because you've been trying to get people to work with you on something, and they don't seem to be getting it. They don't seem to have been understanding. And maybe you've realised that they're committed to this act of not understanding you, and so it does not matter what you bring to the table. They're always going to find a way to kind of duck and dive around it. And it feels to me like in that realization there, you're like, okay, I'm either going to change tack, or I'm going to move away from this, or I'm going to just turn my fucking head, because frankly, whatever this is becoming too stressful to deal with. It has been too stressful to deal with this whole time. But now it's about you, and it's about how you fix you. How do you fix the way that you relate to this situation, whether you relate to it at all, whether you continue to put any kind of energy in that direction. So we come to your recent past, and we've got the Three of Wands in the reverse. Now, in the upright, it talks about taking positive action on something, right? It's a card of the external, so it's about the things that you do, because the whole Wand suit is about doing and experience and living. It's about the things that you do. You haven't been able to do anything. Right? Now, whether that is through lack of energy, and that's totally possible with you, Aries, or whether it's been that you've tried to move in a particular direction, and each time you get there, something shuts down on you, and you're like, fuck, you know. This is an energy that Leo has actually been in for the last 8 months. It's like every direction you try and go in, it's just like, nope, not this way. And you're like, oh, this way? No, not this way. And you've ended up kind of spinning and going, well, there aren't any open ways, so where the fuck am I supposed to go? The thing is, Aries, with these two cards underneath here, this Temperance card and this Five of Pentacles, you have been pushed to a place which has been effectively a standstill for a little while now. To take your eye off what is outside. I feel that very, very strongly, right? Everything outside of you, the directions that you were trying to travel, were kind of distractions almost. And when every time you took the bait and you went in a particular direction, then you got that door slammed down, or there was just suddenly, you know, Matrix style, a fucking brick wall where there had been a door, you know, just seconds previously. It's all been about turning your attention inward and addressing those things that require healing in you. Now, the Five of Pentacles is a card of poverty, it's a card of lack, and that can be pecuniary, right? That absolutely can be talking about money. But because I see the Pentacles as energetic currency, a Pentacle then is anything that you can invest, which is your money, yes, but it also can be your time and your care and your effort and your love. Your energy, full stop. And when we really push into this card, what we've got are two people who are ignoring this, you know, what I imagine is a salvation light here emanating from the church, and they're out in the cold, you know, walking around in the snow barefoot and crippled. But this church for you, Aries, is not a building outside of you. It's not a relationship outside of you. It's not even a situation outside of you and you're just kind of running around the outside of it trying to find a way in. This is you here. Two parts of you, if you will, you know. It's all been about drawing the attention inwards. Now when we see this card, it almost always means to me someone meeting their own basic needs. And yeah, okay, like eating can be one of them. And Aries, have you been eating properly? Have you been drinking lots of water? Have you been taking care of this vessel that you have here that enables you to do things? I think possibly not, right? But it speaks to a deeper need that has not been addressed by you. And I've spoken before, we've done it at length, about how Aries is a doer. You know, you're an explorer. You get out there and you carve a path for others to follow you. The first in the zodiac, right? High energy, high octane, kind of fire element stuff at the world. Everybody knows when they've met an Aries. Yeah? Because that's how you attack everything. But it's always outside of you. And it's the way that you approach the world, right? As I said, very fiery, very high octane, all that sort of stuff. Very passionate, very, very driven. But inside, it's a different story. And just like Sagittarius, I've seen at points that rather than running towards things, Aries is running away from things. Right? Not always, not all the time. But there has been something within you that has been very uncomfortable. Now, Aries is associated with a high sense of self-independence. Right? You do not rely on people for things. A newsflash, this is often a trauma response. And you see it right across the fire signs, interestingly enough, this particular way of doing things. I will do everything myself because generally at some point in the past, in your youth, you know, even in young childhood, you had to do it yourself. Because if you didn't do it yourself, those who were charged with looking after you would not do it. We often see in Aries childhoods either extremely restrictive and controlling home environments, you know, where one of the parents, their word is law, and if you dare go against that, then, you know, all sorts of things could happen. Or absolute abandonment and neglect, you know. I know that we're at opposite ends of the scale here, but the end result is the same. And that is, if you don't do it, nobody else will, right? So it's a survival mechanism for sure, and it has ensured your survival. But you've taken into adulthood that same thing, right? It may not be a literal survival mechanism anymore, and yet still the patterns repeat. So you like to control your environment because that keeps you safe. Sometimes you try and control the people around you because that keeps you safe, you know. And what we saw in the last reading for you was that sense of control had completely gone from you, right? Not only were you not in control of your environment, you weren't in control of the people within your environment, and you barely felt in control of yourself. Now, in that way, the universal lessons can be very cruel sometimes. It's like somebody's taken a crowbar and they've literally just levered off every bit that protected you, every bit of you that made you feel like you could function comfortably. And it's revealed this underneath. Because in the controlling, in the high octane everything, you know, what it did was it stopped you looking at this version of you inside. Yeah, that's what I mean when I say we were running. Where the way that you approach things as an adult is still, in some cases, in some particular situations, that wounded inner child. The one that had far too much responsibility far too early, where instead of being nurtured and encouraged to explore the world in a safe way, you were either prevented full stop from exploring it, right? And it runs against every fibre of your being to be stuck in a controlled situation. Or you were just completely abandoned, you know, completely neglected. It's funny, my partner tells me things about his childhood sometimes. I look at him and go, and I was like, I can't believe you did that. And he was like, oh, we were basically feral, you know, from the age of 6. That's it, we were just off and we were doing things. And in some ways it was a great deal of fun, you know, and there was that incredible bond between all of the kids who were booted out at fucking daylight, you know. Don't come back until tea time, don't come back until the street lights come on, you know, that sort of thing. But there's something that was missing in all of that, and what was missing was that support. What was missing was the love. What was missing was the I just heard some of you had a real fear of violence. Not all of you by any extent, but some of you had a fear of the violence, right? So anyway, this energy that you've been in for this time, where you have felt completely unempowered, completely crippled, in fact, energetically, is not a cruel kick in the teeth from the universe, although I 100% expect that that's how it's felt, because I've been here, I know what this is like. But rather it is about removing any way for you to turn in a different direction other than where you were supposed to go. And where you're supposed to go is inside. Because where you're supposed to go is looking at this so that you can heal this, right? The friend is a chaos magician, and he's one of the things that he says, there's many wise things. One thing that he said that really stuck with me is that observation is processing. You know, if you have a pain, you focus on it. When you sit, you focus on it, it changes. It just changes. And you can maybe move it around, or you can stop it happening, you know. But the very act of the observation is something that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. I don't want to observe that thing because it hurts, and if I look at it, it's probably going to hurt even more, but that's rarely the case. You've been asked to go within on a very fucking deep level and face those things that have pained you so hard. You know, it's been almost like a long dark night of the soul. And often when we hear that thing, like, we associate it with, you know, everything going wrong outside of us, and, you know, maybe job losses, or you lost your home, or, you know, you lost your business or something like that, you know, and everything's just going wrong. outside, and you're just like, ah, and then apparently, you know, we all emerge on the other side of that, and it's like, oh, we've got a new perspective and stuff like that. But that's not generally how these things seem to work. I mean, yes, things quite likely go wrong outside of you, but more often than not, it's that sense of being completely lost. It's that sense of not being able to tether yourself to anything anymore. And this sense of free fall that's been going on for you, Aries, isn't exactly free fall. It is that kind of spinning in a singular spot, until you realize that the only reason that the spinning is making you feel nauseous and making you feel sick is because you're not paying attention to the inner stabilizer, almost. And when you turn around and you have a look and see what gremlins there are that are spinning your inner stabilizer like that, and you go, oi, what are you doing here? I didn't even know you were here. What? They go, and they disappear quite often. You know, humans are very pain avoidant creatures, and often we will put off short-term pain, turning around and looking at the very thing that is really plaguing us. And instead accept a lifetime of running away from that. And every step that you take when you run, it feeds this. So that in our perception, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where we can't ever turn around and look at it, because, you know, what started off as a funny, creepy little spider when we were, you know, very, very young, by this point has turned into shallop. And moves fast and unexpectedly, and you know, if you even tried to turn around and face it, what's going to happen is you're going to end up, like, you know, wrapped up in a web, stuck to a wall like a hobbit, you know. But that's perception. That's not the reality of the situation. This situation has been hard, and it continues into your present energy to be hard, but there is a shift, Aries, and I feel like the shift is because you have really drilled down into what this is here. Now, you may not have known what to do with this here, but now you see it, and that's the important thing. I can't remember who I was talking to, which sign it was I was talking to for the mid-months, and I said, you know, I spoke about a situation that I had that was very, puts me in mind of this kind of thing. It might have been you, or it might have been Scorpio, I can't remember. But there was one very specific situation in 2018. There were a number of things that led, it was just a week of cascading shit, and by the weekend I was pretty much having a nervous breakdown. And looking back on it, I actually felt it as it was happening. I knew it was happening, and I was just powerless to do anything about it. But the result of it was that everything that I had spent a considerable amount of time tucking neatly into boxes and then stuffing under the bed, so that I didn't have to pay any attention to it, and I could still continue to function in the 3D. Thank you very much, because I have children and I have a life and all that sort of thing, you know. What I'd not realised was that my bed was now like 6 feet high, and there was all of this stuff was under there. I could barely reach to get into my bed, you know. I'd have to climb to get in there. As a metaphor, that's really quite interesting, because my insomnia was off the fucking charts at that point anyway. So maybe I wasn't even being able to get into my bed anymore. And I didn't equate the fact that I had so much stuff underneath it that I couldn't actually reach it, right? But over that weekend, what happened was that every awful, terrible, tragic thing that had ever happened to me, and there was a considerable amount of stuff, got dragged out from under the bed, and all the boxes upended and just left all over the floor. And I panicked. I panicked hard. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't look at it because there was too much stuff. I was frightened to turn my head and look at it. And I panicked about how it was that I was going to be able to go and systematically clear up the mess, put everything back into the boxes really neatly, and then shove it all back under the bed. Because that's what I needed to do to function. Right? My entire life up until this point had shown me that. And in one of probably the wisest moves I've ever made, I decided that just for now, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't try and work out how to shove all of this stuff under the bed. I wouldn't work out how to pretend that this little event hadn't happened. I would just sit with it. Because I trusted that at some point I would know what to do with it. I just didn't know now. And I sat with it. And it probably took 7, 10 days. But at the end of that period of time, I realised I didn't have to do anything with it. I'd seen it. I'd acknowledged it. That was enough. And now it didn't need to go under the bed anymore. It just sat there. I just like, I'm kind of shuffle it around with my feet and be like, oh, goodness, look at you. I almost forgotten about you, but no, there you are. Still very strong, still very working away in the background, affecting my subconscious on all levels. And I just sat on the bed and I was like, you know. And I guess to extend the metaphor, what happened was I allowed the sun to stream through the window and highlight all of these things. And by the end of this period, this 7-10 days, I'd reached somewhat of a what's the best way to describe it? Tentative peace, I think, with it. And as time went on, I thought, well, one assumes one should do something with all of this stuff, you know. What do I do with it? Do I need to go through it systematically and, you know, work out all of these things? And I was like, no, I can just let it be there. Because it's not hiding in the shadows anymore. It's just there. And it changed me. And I what are we now, 3 years down the line, I can see very clearly how that changed me. Not just in the initial period thereafter, but in the days, the weeks, the months thereafter, and still possibly to this day is still effective. This feels to me like where you're at now, Aries. And although it can feel cruel, and although it can feel a little bit like it was a bit fucking unnecessary, thank you very much, I think that you underestimate just how strong in your perception what is contained in your past, how powerful it's become because you allowed it to, because the fear of the child, of whatever this thing was, and you know, youth, teens, early 20s, right? It's been feeding this the whole time because you didn't turn around and look at it square in the eye. It's had an opportunity to grow. It's like that, you know, random pair of jeans that you throw over the back of a chair in your bedroom, right? Yeah, it's just a pair of jeans, and then you go to bed and then you wake up in the middle of the night and you're all like, and you look there and what you've actually got is some sort of great big, you know, it looks like a shinigami or something in the corner of your room, and you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. You know, it's because the light wasn't getting at it properly. And by the cold light of day, or the warm light of day even, you look at it and you go, that was just a pair of jeans on a chair. You know? She's not to mitigate the experiences that you've had, but to say that as an adult, as an empowered, strong person that you are, and you are a survivor, Aries, you can turn around and look at that and go, yes, that situation was this. But I'm not going to let the child that is afraid of that make my decisions for me as an adult. You know? I said in your current energy the sun was in reverse, but the sun is there still. It's the most positive card in the deck. And this is where we come back to perspective again, right? In any position, the sun appearing at all augurs well. Obviously, it's a little more muted when it's in the reverse, but it's still pretty positive. The other thing that the sun card talks about lots of things, and when, yes, positivity and joy and all that kind of thing. But it also speaks of consciousness. Right? I see the moon as the subconscious, the non-conscious, the bits of you that are hidden, the conscious bits, the bits that you are aware of, the bits that you have processed, the bits that you have acknowledged. They all sit there. Things work very differently when it's in the consciousness as opposed to the subconscious. You can actually interrogate it for a start, you know. But it also speaks of children and childhood. It speaks of just how vulnerable we are when we are tiny, not just physically, but also energetically. Vulnerable and sensitive to our environment. The fact that it's in the reverse actually feels like a sideways nod, a wink, in fact, to the fact that what you have been going through has been extraordinarily powerful, Aries. Where you are going is to a state of integration, a state of completion, a state that of you acknowledging all those bits of you that you have disavowed up until this point and bringing them into your consciousness. This being a good thing for you, although it's felt awful, and I'm quite sure that it has. So we've got that 9 of Wands there. I mean, this may well have felt like you were only just holding on to this wand, you know. There are all these wands set up here, you know, you've taken time and effort to erect those, but, you know, it's got a bandage on his head. He's got a haunted look. And he's holding on to this last wand almost as, you know, security. You've always had to battle, Aries. To get anywhere, you've always had to work really hard. And there may be people in your past who kind of looked at your behaviour and they have judged that you are selfish or controlling or any of those things, or what they have missed is everything behind that. Why you have had to be the way that you are. Almost at times aggressive. But it's all been about protection. And what the universe is saying to you now is that you don't need to protect yourself in this way anymore. You've grown beyond your own perception. You don't see it, you haven't seen it, but you will see it soon. And I think that you will see it at the point where you start to interact with the world around you again, a little more than you have been doing. We've got the Chariot here. You have been on a path, you have been on a journey, and it was set for you. You are coming through this now. And like I said before, like I feel like there's been a shift. And whether or not you have quite noticed that yet, or whether you kind of feel like you're crawling along on your hands and knees, being just like, is this the fucking end yet? Is this the end? I don't know. You know, you've become so much more powerful now. You don't need to defend yourself in the same way. And sometimes where you've perceived attacks, there weren't any. Sometimes where you've perceived them, they absolutely were there. But where these attacks came, they were coming from people who were telling you much more about themselves than they were about you. And where you're at now is working out how much of yourself you've really known. You know, the power of the Chariot is the harnessing of the light and the dark, right? Of the duality consciousness that we find ourselves in. You know, it is about taking back those bits of you that you have disavowed. It is about acknowledging that, Aries, you can be fragile and you can be vulnerable and you can be sensitive, and that is okay. That maybe the environment that you have found yourself in recently, but probably for a very long time, you know, some of you may even be going back decades with this, has never been one that supported you, right? We're looking at patterns that have repeated since childhood. Whether it was, you know, deeply oppressive and you know, that ball of fire that is a young Aries child that needs to go and do things by itself was completely repressed, or whether it was overextended, you know, because it had to take on responsibility too young, because it had to grow up very fast, because there was nobody to keep them wrapped in cotton wool. You know, go, oh no, little Aries, don't jump off the slide. That's no, don't do that. When people talk about going on a journey of self-discovery, like, oh, it sounds very, you know, noble and enlightened and stuff like that. And often, do you know what? It's confusing. It's completely baffling. Sometimes it's really, really painful. Sometimes you don't even know what you're fucking looking at. Sometimes you feel completely fucking lost. But I often think if people truly understood what an actual journey of self-discovery involved, then probably nobody would do it, because it's messy and because it's raw. And this is where you've been. But Aries, I feel the shift. I feel the shift really strongly, and I don't know if you feel the shift, but this shift is happening. And I don't know if that's energetic or whether that's your perspective or what is probably a combination of lots of different factors. But September is a very different month for you than August was, and July too. September is a month where things are very different, because it sees you emerging from where you have been crawling around on your hands and knees, just being like, where's the fucking way out? I don't understand, you know, because you sat with the stuff that was inside. You weren't given a choice, effectively, but you sat with it, you know. Because we have the Six of Wands here. Okay. And what I really love about the pagan other worlds, is that in a lot of cards where the presence of characters is considered to be, like, you know, one of the defining features of the card. So here, Five of Wands. We've got 5 wands, which are effectively a neutral thing, right? But we've got 5 characters who've picked them up and they're clobbering the shit out of each other with them. And you're like, oof, conflict. There are no characters here. And this feels to me really, really important, because the Six of Wands has usually got a chap on horseback and he's sat up very, very straight, and he's got, you know, this laurel wreath of victory, and everybody's going, yay. this dude's come back, and presumably there's been some sort of battle, some sort of war that he has fought, and he's come back as a, conquering hero. It's a very Leo-esque kind of, thing. I like this more. Because what this says to me is that you have conquered something within yourself, Aries. No external characters involved at all. The stuff that you're dealing with in your internal space may well involve characters who have long since exited your life through death, or just through, peeling away and going somewhere else. And it's left you with this. Only yourself to conquer. And you're doing it. I love the fact that there's this sort of ivory coloured ribbon that's running through all of the wands too. Because rather than conquering others in a war, with all of the aggression and the violence that generally brings to mind, what we got there is peace. A sense of peace within you. And it's clarified by the Ten of Pentacles and the Four of Wands. Now, the Ten of Pentacles could be your business, could be your family life, but it could be a sense of renewed commitment to something. One does not come across a 10 Pentacles by chance. They take time and care and effort and careful investing and a lot of work to get to the point of having 10 Pentacles. Now, if you had an inheritance, which is sometimes the meaning of this card, you would say, well, the money just dropped into my lap. Yes, but somebody else worked for that time, care, effort. You may be the beneficiary, but it was somebody else who did that. It comes down to commitment and hard work. And for you, I feel like a sense of renewed commitment. What you understand to be important. The characters in your life that you acknowledge to be important, right? Those people who bring value to you. And not those that don't. Sometimes I don't want those people. But what I see you committing to here is the creation of a new paradigm. We started off with the Three of Wands in reverse, right? You unable to take action in any way whatsoever. But the very last card in the reading is the Four of Wands, and it's in the upright. So we have 3, 4. This is good. But it's about understanding that the things that needed changing were not outside of you. It was never about the actions that you take. Oh, I need to do this. I need to work harder. I need to, I need to go and deal with these people. I need to go and deal with the situation. No, it was all about stopping and looking inside and getting to a point where you are able to build a new foundation for yourself. Like, Aries energy is spectacular. It's really spectacular. And look at everything that you've achieved over your life. The thing is, as startling as it may sound, you've never been running at full capacity, Aries, because what has been sat in the background has been leeching your energy for years, decades even, right? Maybe your entire life. What this says to me is that you are about to be able to achieve a lot more, but those things that are actually important. It's not about status. It's not even about control. It's not about power over others. It's about the power over yourself. It's about seeing yourself as the miracle that you are, and really feeling that. There's a restlessness I know I keep bringing it up, but like the parallels between Aries and Sagittarius are really, really strong. Far more so than it is between you two and Leo, interestingly enough. There's always a jostling and a restlessness with both of you signs. Where Aries always like plows forwards as a cardinal sign. I'm going in a direction and I'm going really fucking fast and really fucking hot. Sagittarius will go, well, I might go that way, but actually I'm just going to go over here because there's something really interesting, like, ooh, what's this? Oh, you know, constantly curious and able to be diverted away from, you know, where they were heading because they're going to go and have a little side quest over here. You know, the Aries doesn't tend to do that. There's been a slowing down for both of you. And it got slower and slower and slower and slower, and then it stopped. And then for the pair of you, it's felt like you've been dragged backwards. I mean, you haven't been dragged backwards, you've just kind of been pulled by the shoulders and turned around and gone, here's the thing. Now you are at a point where those bits of yourself that you disavowed, bits that you don't want to even consider, which is vulnerability and sensitivity and you know, all of that sort of thing. Pulling that into yourself is bringing you to a state of integration. Aries, you will be able to achieve so much more. You've got a real sense of what is actually important here, now. And over the course of September, your energy will return to you. You can see it here. It's right here. Your energy will return to you, but the peace will also stay, and that's the important thing. It's not about running away. It's now running towards something with all of you. Every last bit of you. Cool, I've been prattling on for 3/4 of an hour. Right, Aries, I'm going to leave it here. If this has resonated with you, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now and do the extended. So if you would like to join me there, that will be like the first link in the description box. The 6-month overviews is the second link. If you would like to come over there, I would love to see you. If not, no shade, not a problem at all. September will be so much better than August and July and probably the last few months, to be honest. So take heart. You're approaching the end and it's all good, you know. Know that I love you all very, very much. I will see you soon.